Welcome to Cancer Lesson 4.3, How do Tumor Cells Find a New Home? The goals of this lesson are to explain how the seed and soil hypothesis predicts where secondary tumors will form, and explore the impact of secondary tumor formation. At the end of the lesson, the students should be able to explain the seed and soil hypothesis and how it explains secondary tumor formation. Explain why certain sites, like the bone, brain, liver, and lungs, are preferential sites for metastasis, and explain how malignant tumors become dangerous when they form secondary tumors that disrupt the vital function of organs. We will achieve our goals by engaging in an interrupted case study about the evidence for the seed and soil hypothesis. To prepare for this lesson, you'll need to review the following key scientific concepts that will be presented throughout this lesson. Mutations that allow cancer cells to metastasize permit them to move into secondary sites. Many secondary sites are linked to the primary site by the blood supply. The seed and fertile soil hypothesis proposes that tumors will only grow in secondary sites that are hospitable. A hospitable site supplies the tumor with nutrients, oxygen, and specific growth factors. A tumor that can survive in a secondary site may need more mutations before it can grow. You can review this scientific content in the background reading provided for you in the teacher primer, the teacher manual, and the student workbook. The teacher primer provides in-depth knowledge about the scientific content presented in this lesson. The teacher manual or lesson plan provides a minute-by-minute explanation of the lesson structure, and the student workbook provides additional explanation for students. You'll need to be sure to print the lesson worksheet and the homework worksheet. The key points of the do now are that to treat a tumor, we need to know whether it is primary or metastatic. A tumor will only form a metastasis in an organ that promotes tumor growth. We'll get there by reviewing the last lesson's homework. The do now harks back to lesson 1.1, in which we learned that Steve Jobs' pancreatic cancer metastasized very early to his lung and liver. In this lesson, we learn why the tumor metastasized to these specific organs, but not any other organs. But how do we know whether a tumor is primary or secondary? Cancer cells retain hallmarks of their original location, in this case their color from melanin in the skin, so we can often determine where the cells originated and thereby determine whether a tumor is primary or a metastatic secondary tumor. Cancer cells with mutations that allow them to migrate escape having to compete with other cells at the primary site for nutrients and oxygen. However, they need to find those nutrients where they migrate to. Where a primary tumor cell migrates to is often dictated by where the blood supply near the primary site leads to. But that's not all. Some secondary organs secrete signals like hormones that attract the cancer cells. So the question is, do the metastasizing tumor cells only get off the bloodstream highway at exits where they sense these signals? Or do they get off at many destinations, but only grow in the ones that provide the right environment? This is the question we will explore today. It's called the seed and fertile soil hypothesis. This says that metastasizing cancer cells spread, much like seeds across the body, but will only take root and grow in locations that have the right conditions for growth. This is important because just as not all plants thrive in the same soil, not all cancers thrive in the same organ. So specific cancers tend to metastasize to specific organs. In the activity, students will work in small groups to complete an interrupted case study about where secondary tumors are most likely to form. The key points of the activity are that in order to form a secondary tumor, cancer cells must not only land in an organ, but also grow in it. And the key factor in determining where a cancer cell metastasizes is the type of mutations it acquires. We'll get there by engaging in an interrupted case study about metastatic colon cancers. Students will work in small groups, answering the questions on the lesson worksheet that demonstrate how different types of colon cancer cells or cell lines have different abilities to land in, survive in, and grow in the liver. Then they examine the 4 vital organs where secondary tumors most commonly develop. They consider the symptoms that are seen when cancer cells metastasize to these 4 organs. The key points of the wrap-up are that secondary tumors that are found in vital organs are most likely to be detected. Metastases to other organs that don't affect vital function may go undiscovered. A cancer that metastasizes to a non-vital organ may go undetected if they don't produce serious symptoms. On the other hand, they may be easier to treat. Remember, Steve Jobs had his spleen removed. For homework, have students read an article about why secondary tumors in particular are most likely to become resistant to chemotherapy. One of the most common questions students ask is, why do bone cells secrete serotonin to attract cancer cells? This is another example of students assigning intentionality to a random process. Bone cells do not secrete serotonin to attract cancer cells. They secrete serotonin as part of their normal development. But cancer cells that happen to have serotonin receptors can metastasize to the bone. There are many examples of scenarios where cancer cells take advantage of normal cell processes. At the end of the lesson, collect the lesson worksheets to assess students' explanations of why certain sites are preferential sites for metastasis. In this lesson, we explored how cancer cells can metastasize to other parts of the body and why metastasis is so challenging to treat. In the next lesson, we explore one way our body can fight against metastatic cancer. Don't forget, if you have any questions, concerns, or feedback, to let us know. You can contact any of the CTSE team members and we'll be happy to help you.